Hello, this is Willy. On Thursday, January 9th, the new season has finally begun. This season is particularly special not only because it marks the 3rd anniversary, but also because the season rewards are absolutely incredible. Of course, the rewards are tied to specific challenges, but the fact that you can earn them at all makes it feel like a fantastic deal. Additionally, they're offering exclusive season items as part of the event, making it an even greater bargain. If you haven't started yet, you absolutely must play this season. Let's get started right now. One of the most frequent questions I get at the start of every season is, what's the best skill? Or, which skill should I start with? Honestly, it's a bit tricky to answer. Since it's only been a few days into the season, it's hard to know how certain skills perform without first-hand experience. So, based on what I've seen and heard from others using these skills, here are my recommendations. For physical skills, Earthblow is always a solid and reliable choice. For magic-based skills, you can go with Fireball for consistent performance, and if you're into bow builds, Ice Crystal Arrow is definitely the way to go. If you used Ice Crystal Arrow in the previous season, and now want to try a different bow build this time around, Poison Arrow Rain isn't a bad option. However, if we compare Poison Arrow Rain and Ice Crystal Arrow is better for clearing maps, while Poison Arrow Rain is more effective for bosses and champions. What can I say about Earthblow? It's so effective that it even handles defense seamlessly, making it much easier to progress smoothly in the game. Now let's quickly go over the recommended Link Runes for early game setups. The chart I'm showing now displays the recommended Link Runes for Ice Crystal Arrow. If you're planning to use Ice Crystal Arrow, take a screenshot of this screen and use it as a reference. For your information, the rune colours indicate their base grade. Yellow ones can be obtained from yellow chests, while white ones are mostly available for purchase in the shop. Next, here are the recommended Link Runes for Earthblow. As you can see, I've separated the starting Link Runes from the final ones. They're also listed in order of importance from top to bottom, so keep that in mind. Finally, these are the recommended Link Runes for Fireball. At the start, you'll only need 6 out of these 8 runes. Later on, Fireball typically doesn't use Shadow Rune anymore at all. Instead, players often use a triggered skill to activate Dark Judgment upon spell hit. Other options like Light Judgment or Thorn Explosion are also perfectly viable choices. Now let's talk about the Zodiac. Many people ask about this, so I'll quickly go over the early Zodiac paths you should follow to build a strong foundation. For the complete Zodiac setup, I recommend checking the ranking board. Click on the player ID of someone you like and take a look at their Zodiac setup. But for beginners, I suggest starting with a simpler build first. I'll show you a reliable and effective Zodiac setup to get started. Let's begin with Ice Crystal Arrow. For the first node, Afros, follow the upward path for optimal progression and balance. For the second node, Swamp, invest all your points in cold damage. For the third node, Gold, focus on projectile damage to the middle. Then, head downward. If you want to maximize damage, invest in projectile damage 8% amplification, but keep in mind that it reduces life by 20%. Proceed with caution. After that, move on to the fourth node, Stem, and follow the path to the left and downward for a total of 7 points. This will unlock the first specialization. With Ice Crystal Arrow, players often use Dark. Start with projectile damage and move to projectile damage 6% amplification. Then continue until you unlock the mana conversion effect in the Zodiac nodes. This will open the 5th stage. In the 5th stage, start with Rainbow, taking damage plus 15% and critical hit disabled. Since Ice Crystal Arrow builds often avoid critical hits, this node boosts damage by 30%. Equip items later to increase maximized damage. After that, move on to Dewdrop and take attack speed 5% amplification. Then proceed through Flash for attack speed plus 20% and mana plus 1 per hit. In the 6th Zodiac stage, start with Breath, taking minus 10% skill rune resource consumption and move down to hit damage 6% amplification. This unlocks the second specialization. In the second specialization, Stra, starting with projectile damage plus 15% and continuing to projectile damage 8% amplification. Then, proceed to attack speed 4% amplification. This will unlock the 7th stage. At the 7th stage in Dust, start with hit damage 10% and move up to element damage 5%. In Stench, since you're using a two-handed bow, select all the options for two-handed weapons. In the same stage, Undecember, choose the options related to your weapon type, whether it's dual wielding or a two-handed weapon. This unlocks the third specialization. For the third specialization, select Fisherman. Start from the beginning and go left to the Falcon Hunter effect, then move right to attack speed 6% amplification. At this point, you'll have completed the 3 specializations with all the necessary points. After completing the specializations, the Zodiac setup may vary significantly depending on your build, play style, and preferred strategy as you progress further in the game. I highly recommend regularly checking the ranking board to explore other players' Zodiac setups, study their unique strategies, and adapt them accordingly for better performance. Now let's go over the Zodiac setup for Earthblow. In the first node, Afros, invest upward into 5 points. For the second Zodiac, Forest, follow the same upward path with 5 points. Then for the third Zodiac, choose Gem, and start with damage plus 10% and move to melee damage 8% amplification in the middle. For the fourth Zodiac in Root, take the upward path to physical damage amplification. In Leaf, start with area damage plus 10% and invest in physical damage, area damage and resource reduction, until you reach area damage 5% amplification, unlocking the first specialization. For Earthblow, players use hammers, so begin with area damage, continue right for amplification, then move left to uplift effect. This will unlock the 5th Zodiac. In the 5th stage, start with Rainbow, investing in damage, critical damage and critical hit chance. Then, to address any remaining attack speed issues, move to Dewdrop and take the nodes for attack speed and finish at Flash, where you invest in attack damage and continue to attack speed. And mana plus 1 per hit. In the 6th Zodiac, invest in Breath, focusing on area damage 6% amplification. This will unlock the second specialization. For the second specialization, choose the Wrath path, starting from area damage and move left and downward to area damage amplification, finishing with the Sharpness effect. Earthblow players often use shields. In the 6th Zodiac specialization, go to Try and follow the shield specific nodes. Take all 7 points along this path. Then, in the 7th Zodiac, start with Dust, investing in hit damage plus 10%, and continue to the lower right for area range plus 30% and hit damage plus 20%. Next, in Artemis, invest in area range and continue to area damage. This will unlock the 3rd specialization. For the 3rd specialization, choose Flame, starting from area damage and move downward to area damage amplification. Then, invest the remaining points upward to alternate between Enrage and Amplification every 4 seconds. At this point, you'll have completed all 3 specializations with 777 points. For the next Zodiac setups, I recommend using the ranking board for inspiration from other players' builds. Next, let's discuss the Zodiac setup for Fireball. Since it involves spell damage, there are slight differences to consider. For the first Zodiac, invest in Cliff, starting with spell damage and continuing downward to cast speed. In the second stage, Swamp, focus entirely on element damage and fire damage. For the third stage, Gold, follow the same logic for projectile damage and element damage. If you'd like, you can also invest in projectile damage 8% amplification for extra damage output. But keep in mind it reduces life by 20%. This trade-off is something to consider as you refine your build and adjust accordingly. In the 4th stage, Stem, invest in element damage upward, and in the same stage, Leaf, focus on area damage, projectile damage, area range, and resource cost reduction. This unlocks the first specialization. For Fireball, use Brilliance, starting from spell damage, then move to Mana Regen, Mana Conversion, and spell damage 10% amplification, and finally, take the Knowledge Effect node. For the 5th stage, focus on Rainbow, investing in critical hit chance, and in Dewdrop, take 3 points for cast speed and improved efficiency. In the same stage, Light and Dark start with spell damage, and continue through the path cast speed to Mana on hit. This will unlock the 6th Zodiac. In the 6th Zodiac, invest in Breath for sustained casting and efficiency, to enhance area range or area damage. This unlocks the second specialization. For the second specialization, Vacuum, starting from spell damage and moving upward to projectile count plus 2, then continue upward to area range plus 15%, and finish at spell damage 10% amplification. This unlocks the 7th Zodiac. In the 7th stage, pick Dust. Starting from hit damage and moving to the upper left for element damage amplification, and to the right for area range and hit damage plus 20%. In the same stage, Undecember, if you're dual wielding, focus on options for dual weapons. Adjust according to your weapon type, whether dual or two-handed. This unlocks the 3rd specialization. For the 3rd specialization, select Pirate on the right. Use the new nodes added this season, starting at the beginning and moving upward. To fire damage 15% amplification, and continue upward to elemental particle generation chance 10%. At this point you've completed the 3rd specialization. As always, if you're unsure about Zodiac setups, check the ranking board for guidance. Now let's move on to gear. Early on, gear isn't particularly important. Generally, equipping items with high attack damage will help, and attack speed is also crucial. However, for fireball builds, cast speed, not attack speed, is what you should focus on. Look for items that enhance it instead. If possible, select relics that boost damage or attack speed. In the next video, I'll introduce more refined versions of each skill. Since it's still early in the season, I've been busy leveling my character, testing builds, gathering resources, optimizing setups, adjusting strategies, and haven't had much time to make videos. But I'll do my best to create more content soon. Thank you for your support. This has been Willy. Please like, subscribe, and stay tuned.